All right. Welcome to episode 8 of the Domination Rankings of Everything, the show that creates a weekly top 25 of absolutely everything together. This is done with co hosts zealously and earnestly advocating for the entry into the top 25 of some things which they have immense passion and knowledge. We have with us Mike Rusconi, a humor writer who knows everything there is about dating apps and loves Motown. Gee, why do I feel like Chuck Woolery right now? How are you, Mike?
I'm good. Wait, so is humor writer what lawyer is going to be called after AI takes over my actual career? And if yeah, I'm still single, so I don't know how that bodes for my dating app argument. Maybe it
All
bodes
right.
great.
We also have Jerry Thornton, a comedian author with passion for quotable movies and is undeniably an expert on what it feels like when your favorite team wins a championship. What's up, Jerry?
Hey, fellas, good to talk to you. Emma, pleasure to make your acquaintance. And I'm here mostly because of the number one trait I bring to the table here, which is my availability.
All right. Yes, we also have super duper intern Emma Hurley, who will soon be making a trek all the way to South Bend, Indiana. And why, Emma, might you be going to South Bend?
Obviously for the main reason people want to go to South Bend for its world-renowned cuisine. Oh, and also to go to Notre Dame.
There you go. Yes, Emma's going to be a freshman at Notre Dame, one of the best Catholic schools in the country, ranking, I believe, just below Mike's Providence College and my St. Bonaventure University.
Oh yeah, but maybe if I really put in the work, I'll be able to transfer and just like you, be a Bonnie.
Dare to dream, Emma. That's nice. All right. Oh, then there's me, Dave Barend, Grand Poobah, College Basketball Times, which is where the domination rankings originated. But just for basketball, which we have now expanded just a bit to include everything, thus the domination rankings of everything together. So here's what's going to happen. And well, what's supposed to happen? God only knows what's actually going to take place. But we'll start with 3 rounds of debate as to which 3 new things should be added to the top 25. But that means 3 things have to come out of the top 25. And if you're confused, don't worry. Emma will keep this all straight for everyone.
Wait, Emma will do that? Wait,
Yeah,
no.
very
Okay.
good. Thanks. Moving on. So after the debates, we'll then reveal the latest top 25 according to our many, many voters. And it's the last 3 things on the list that we will replace with our new entries into that top 25. So Emma, what do we have for round 1 of the debates?
All right, this is all very exciting. First, we have Dave as the judge, with Jerry
Woohoo!
arguing for quotable movies and Mike arguing for Motown.
All right. So I believe Jerry, you kick us off.
Okay. Tell me when to begin. I know I've got a minute and
You're
I'm ready to
going
roll.
right now.
Go
Okay.
for it.
All right. I'm the youngest of five, 3 older brothers, and this I learned everything in life from watching them. Okay, life is a test, and I cheated off their papers. So one of my brothers who just went to God back in the fall, when I was a kid, he had an assignment in school. You had to deliver a speech, a famous speech from history. He had blown off the assignment, got up in front of the class, and winged it off the top of his head. I know what you're thinking, punk. Did I fire 6 shots or only five? He did the entire Dirty Harry speech and got an A on the assignment. And younger me hearing this story said, oh, so that's how guys talk to other guys. And I had already been doing it without realizing it. So, short time later, I'm going to see Monty Python on the Holy Grail. Friends of mine who saw it with me. It's all we did for the whole rest of the school year. If it's 2025 and you're not communicating with your friends about, through the language
Second.
of movie quotes from the last like 50 years, you're not living life correctly. This is how we talk to each other. This is how you make friends and influence people.
All right, Mike, you're up.
All right. Music is the universal language, and Motown has dominated music since 1959. It's one of those things where it's synonymous with a trend. It's not just a record corporation. It's like Kleenex or Xerox machine. If you say Motown, people probably will reference a band that isn't a Motown artist, thinking it's an actual genre of music. That is how much Motown dominates music, which dominates everything. Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, Diana Ross, Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye. I'm going to burn up too much time listing half the people. But when I was a freshman at Providence College, I had a pretty good knowledge of music. I hopped in this van driven by this guy called Frank. We called him Frank the shuttle driver. It would take us to the local watering hole. This one particularly was prime time because it was the only one that was just dangerously far away enough that we might get mugged on the way there or back. And when we Frank the shuttle driver's thing, he would blast Motown. Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, I second that emotion. I will never forget hearing that for the first time in Frank the shuttle driver's van. And that's why Motown dominates everything.
All right. You can kick off the rebuttal, Jerry.
Okay, Motown, I can respect it, but right now it's not even the most relevant genre of music. You're going to go out this weekend with some friends. At some point, someone's going to say, I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal. No one's going to be saying, I ain't too proud to beg, sweet darling. It's not 1965 anymore.
Well, you might be at that same setting, and in the background, you will hear something, music perhaps, and it is undeniably driven off something that somebody wrote in the 60s and packaged in different ways. The entire 1990s hip hop genre was driven by artists that came from Motown.
Jerry, you got any more?
Okay. Again, you're going to meet a girl this weekend. You're going to reference Smokey Robinson and the Miracles. She's not going to have the first clue what you're talking about. But the minute you say, I come from a family of learned doctors, she's going to say, oh, stepbrothers. This is how we communicate in 2025.
Yeah, but Jerry, if I meet that same girl and I say something like, keep your friend close, but your enemies closer, and she doesn't get the reference, my social cred goes through the floor, and she's going to look at me like a psychopath because I quoted the movie that she didn't get. So it's like walking through a minefield with the quotable movies thing. I get it. It's fun. I like to do it, but you got to be real careful with it.
Are we done? We got any more? Any more volley? Mike, you got any more? You want to hit him again?
I can keep hitting them. You know when Motown started to lose steam? When they started to sign people like, I don't know, Rick James or Lionel Richie or the Commodores. And Michael Jackson had 4 solo albums with Motown. Again, I could sit here for the Boys to Men was a Motown label. Like that was in the 90s. Again, you cannot their formula of keep it simple, drum beats people can nod their head to, strings, nice voices, and also they were big in the civil rights movement. They made it cool for African American people to go out and perform in front of other people. When prior to that, that was very taboo. I'm sorry, Motown is just a force to be reckoned with, like the likes of which we have never seen.
Dave, did you and I just make best friends? Yep. Do you want to go do karate in the garage? Yep.
Do you have a rebuttal for that, or are we on to the judge here, Mike?
I bet Emma didn't get that, and she both thinks you're weird now. She thinks you're both weird now.
That was my appeal to the court. I stand by every word of it.
All right. Here's my decision. First of all, I love quoting movies. Love them. My favorite from Stripes, and then Depression set in. I use that to start pretty much every single day. But the dominance. I know that nobody has ever quoted a few of the greatest movies of all time because a few of the greatest movies of all time were silent. Kind of hard to quote movies with no words. And quoting movies, I just don't think it's as much of a thing anymore. I kind of like how quoting novels and books was a thing, and then it just became something done by pretentious pricks. Which begs the question, are we, the movie quoters, today's pretentious pricks? I say no. When we rattle off, you'll have nothing and like it, or orange whips all around, we are not pretentious. We are, in the words of my daughter, pathetic and old. But not as old as Motown, which was sold by Berry Gordy in 1988 and hasn't had a hit since 1985, unless you want to count Boyz II Men. Nobody counts them. However, the embarrassment I cause my daughters when I blare Motown in the car pales in comparison to when I tell their friends, you're money and you don't even know it. So I'm torn. It comes down to this. Animal House, one of the most quotable movies of all times, with the fantastic line of "Have a brew, don't cost nothing." And when that line is said, a song is being played called Money, written by Motown founder Berry Gordy. Gotta go with Motown here. Sorry, Jerry.
Wow.
All right, moving on to round two. What do we have for round two?
All right. We have Judge Jerry, and we have Mike arguing for dating apps, and Dave arguing for deodorant / antiperspirant.
Bring it on, Mike.
All right. Dating apps went from 0 to 100 so fast. When I was just graduated from college, Match.com was barely a thing, and only crazy people went on it. And I know this because I had crazy friends that went on Match.com dates, and they would tell us about how crazy the people were that they went on the dates with. 5, 6 years later, everybody's on a dating app. It's one of the premier ways to meet people now. It's the easiest way to meet people. I met 5 people waiting for the Zoom thing to get up on my phone. It also, it's gotten so dominant that now the younger generation is doing things called IRL meetings, which means in real life, apparently. Well, that's another thing dating apps are great for. If you're swiping and matching with younger people, I'm up to date on all the acronyms. If you know, you know. I didn't know what that was. IRL, it took me a while to get a hold of it, but I do now. I didn't understand that ankle socks at the gym are a dad thing now. Like this is literally like changing how I behave. Generally, in dating, if you're single, dating dominates your life.
Seconds.
And the dating app is the way to meet people.
All
I
right.
rest on that.
Dave, you may
all,
approach
good
the
luck.
bench.
Hang on. Good luck with the dating if you don't wear deodorant. So here's a true story. I'm about 19 in a bar. I go up to a girl, I tell a little joke, and she smiles. Then she starts to giggle. Yeehaw. Then she starts flat out laughing. Then she says, "Will you stop sweating?" At that point, I never took a step outside again without dousing myself in Arid extra dry. You know, the one that doubles as a can of Raid? Yeah, I feel a little guilty for being solely responsible for that whole ozone problem. But it turns out nobody gives a crap about the ozone. It'd be different if I wiped out the erogenous zone, I think. But what I did actually help the world. When you're around people with insufficient deodorant and antiperspirant, you are at risk for migraines, shortness of breath, and respiratory tract irritation. There's a documented case in Springfield where a man walks into a place, stinks it up so bad that a priest gives him new clothes and a bath. That man's name? Yes, Homer Simpson. Bottom line, Jerry, could you live in a world without dating apps or a world without deodorant? Mike, hit me with your rebuttal because I got more.
Attorney
right.
Rusconi, the floor is yours.
Does deodorant give you a dopamine hit in the same way that hitting 21 on blackjack or eating large amounts of chocolate or dabbling in whatever illicit substances you feel like dabbling in? I don't think deodorant does that because it's been proven that when you swipe right and you get the match, that is a dopamine release. Deodorant will not do that to your brain. I can guarantee you that.
All right. Here's what deodorant will do: make you feel patriotic because it was invented in the United States, right in Philadelphia. And from my experience in Philly, it appears that city is still working on finishing its first can. Deodorant, $9.4 billion industry, up 14.4% last year alone, which is both impressive and disturbing. I mean, at this point, you would think that entire market would be covered, so to speak. You got anything else, Mike? Hit me. Come on.
Well, first of all, deodorant upsets the natural process of the human body. There's a reason why you sweat. It's to get rid of bacteria, which is actually the thing that smells, not the sweat itself. It detoxes you of heavy metals, which deodorant apparently has aluminum in it, which I'm going to guess is not great. But deodorant is not going to help people that are normally terrified of approaching attractive women get in touch with attractive women. Now, I might put the deodorant on and be like, all right, boy, I'm going to go talk to her right now, and then take one step and say, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, no, I'm not. But I can pick up my phone and I can just match with someone that's better looking than me by virtue of the fact that she happened to make the mistake of swiping right on mine as well. Deodorant can't do that.
Here's what dating apps do. They eliminate the necessary interpersonal skills you develop in bars. In bars, I was able to learn if a woman was looking at me because she really likes me or because she'd really like me to stop looking at her. Is she really interested or really afraid? That's a negative with dating apps. As is, think about this: if dating apps existed in the '90s, there'd be no movie Swingers. And dating apps now make it very less likely that there'll be a Swingers 2. I blame dating apps for no Swingers 2.
Well, you're also submarine your own point with the deodorant too, because when you approach women in person, once you actually get to talk to them face to face, after you've determined that they do not want to swat you off with the fly swatter, you're emitting all kinds of pheromones and other bodily things that are designed to attract women towards you. You're masking this, so even if you do get the signal to approach and you approach, you may be subconsciously by that female deemed insufficient because of your lack of body odor that you're covering up with deodorant.
I don't think that one holds water, but let's take a look at the names of the dating apps. First of all, the app for people looking for marriage is called eHarmony. No married person would ever use the word harmony. Tinder would be much better if it was called Timber, which is what someone should have to yell right before dumping you. Timber! Oh no, here it comes. Maybe play a little pit bull in the background. But maybe you get to, if you can run away from your phone before she calls, then you're still in the relationship. But Bumble, I was excited when I heard about Bumble until I found it has nothing to do with the humble Bumble from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. That is just simply false advertising. I think they should be just honest and call these dating apps what they are. Will you have sex with me? That's what they should be called.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that last part. I was busy getting dopamine rushes off of my phone here from the matches I've been getting. I'm just going to assume it wasn't a good point.
All right. That's the best dating app is the only dating app that should exist and it's been around forever. I know Jerry will agree with me on the best dating app is Shrimp Cocktail. Why? Because it comes with shrimp. And in fact, if you want to change your nominee right now to shrimp, I might flat out concede.
Mike, anything in response? Okay,
I
then.
think I'll rest on my previous arguments.
All right,
Okay,
hang
then-
on. I got one more thing here. Let me just say this. Dating apps, because of dating apps, young people like Emma have no idea what the Pina Colada song means. That is a tragedy. That is a tragedy. Dating apps are tragic. All right, go
No,
ahead,
that's a great-
Jerry. Bring it on.
It's a great thing she doesn't know that song.
Okay, well, as the court takes us under advisement, I want to begin by thanking you both for very good, logical, well-constructed arguments. The court is very impressed with your presentations. Let me discuss the positives of each of them. Attorney Rusconi, you're talking to a man who's always been fascinated by this world, going back to, as Dave referenced, dating pages. Back in the sad times of my life where I had to sit in a laundromat waiting for my clothes to be dry, they had the free stack of it was basically not quite a magazine, not quite a newspaper, it's kind of in between. And it was called the dating page. And I would go through there fascinated by how people would use about 25 words to sum up their entire life in order to attract a mate. Fascinating. I'm not in the dating app world, but I've done podcasts just talking to millennials about this because the idea of just being able to pick up a phone and search for someone to hook up with, utterly fascinating. Now, Dave, to your point, funny that you're making this argument today because today I was at the gym and there was someone near me who stank to high heaven, which is very rare. It's very rare. I grew up in an age where the world smelled like cigarettes. Now, if you get off on if an elevator door opens up and you're on a smoking level of a hotel, you know it because you're so sensitive to that smell that used to just be what the world was like. Now, the deodorant thing, it's an absolute rare exception where someone gives off that musk. Now, both of what you guys have argued are proof that we live in a simulated world, that we have blocked ourselves off from our inherent nature. It's really become like Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. We've created this artificial environment for how we select mates, for our health, our mental health, how we plug in chemicals to change our brain chemistry to deal with the world as we've made it. Now the negatives. Mike, you mentioned that aluminum is bad for you and your skin and whatever. Not discussing in your argument was the mental health aspects of apps, which yet again are another way that you can present yourself to people and get rejected. Like we don't have that enough on the internet as it is. Now you're asking people, please evaluate me. Here's how what you know about me. It's just this image, and it's just another cyber way of people telling you you're ugly, you're unappealing, you're unattractive, nobody desires you, you'll never procreate, your species is going to die out because no one wants to extend your bloodline.
This is getting
Eh,
personal.
yeah, well, Dave, the negative parts of yours is that, as Mike mentioned, that the health risks of deodorant. It's not natural. We've created this world where if you smell just a little bit the way people did for since time immemorial, now all of a sudden you're a social pariah. So I'm weighing these, fellas. I
Your
think
decision
it's all
is
in the balance. But I'm gonna say this, Mike. I grew up in a world where finding a woman was a challenge. And challenges are a good thing. We're human beings. The world isn't supposed to be just handed to us on a silver
there
platter.
you
I,
go.
I think it was Thomas Paine. I don't know exactly how he phrased this in common sense, but he said, that which we obtain too easily has too little value.
Yeah.
I, when I wanted to talk to a girl, I would have to ask for her number, which took a lot of guts, and then call the phone in her house, not knowing who was going to pick it up, not knowing if it was going to be her dad, not knowing if it was going to be her little brother. That toughened me up. It creates resistance, which creates muscle, which creates mental toughness.
All right. Do we
For
have a
that
decision?
reason, I'm going with Dave's. I'm going with
Yes.
deodorant.
All
Woo!
right.
No BO.
All right. Moving on.
Round 3. We got Judge Mike judging Dave, who's arguing for indoor plumbing, versus Jerry arguing for your team winning a championship. And go.
All right. Easy to forget how much you appreciate indoor plumbing until you step into a porta potty, or as I like to say, a hut of hepatitis. I walk into one and I immediately run out thinking I'd just rather shit myself. Another true story here. I go out to lunch with in my wife's hometown in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, with her aunt and her mother named Joy. Yes, my mother-in-law's name is Joy, the most ironically named human on the planet. I ask where the bathroom is, so they point me to a door that says men's. I open it, and it's not a toilet, it's an actual outhouse, which they think is hilarious. But I come back smelling exactly like I've been in a room filled with crap. So now they're nauseous, I'm nauseous,
10
all
seconds.
because this literal shithole is too cheap to get indoor plumbing. But nausea is just the least of your worries. From merely entering an outhouse, you can get norovirus, Shigella, Salmonella, E. coli. So when it comes time to have a bowel movement, I use my toilet. And Jerry, I guess, is not worried because he can just go in one of his many, many hats from his many, many teams who have won many, many championships.
Dave, the world is my urinal. I'm a man. I can go. I can go anywhere. I'm not discounting indoor plumbing, but I'm saying where is the joy in it? Uh, Going to the bathroom is an isolated thing one does by themselves. You don't talk about it. You don't discuss it with anyone. What does your team win in a championship? It's the most communal thing we have in the world. In a increasingly divided and isolated society, nothing will bring people out by literally the millions like a championship celebration. You talk about it forever, you dine out on it forever, you share memories, you buy the shirts, you buy the posters, you spend the money at the charity auction to get all the flags of all the Boston teams. When the Patriots won in 2018, so this would have been 2019, they drew 1.2 million people into the city of Boston for a parade in the middle of February on a Tuesday. Your bathroom won't do that.
You know what happens after your team wins? People die. 8 people killed after the Pistons won. 5 people died after the Bulls won a championship. Just this past year, 2 people were killed when a para soccer team won the championship. So there you have it. Win a championship, get charged with murder. At this point, where indoor plumbing became like at the point where indoor plumbing became prevalent, life expectancy in the US went up 25 years. Without indoor plumbing, there'd be 2 million more deaths per year. 250,000 kids per year die because of lack of indoor plumbing. And I'm not talking about the ones you'd rather have dead, like the little vermin who are on your corner of your neighborhood selling you watered down lemonade. No, my research says these are the good kids.
In the words of the great William Wallace, every man dies, not every man truly lives. And would you live all those years for one moment to go to a championship parade? Ask a Jets fan if they would risk their lives to see their team win their first title since before men walked on the moon. And I tell you, they would risk their lives for that. I've been many times. It's worth it.
Without indoor plumbing, we'd have no washing machines, no dishwashers, no sewers, no shower, which would have a devastating impact on everyone going through puberty, no clean water, no sinks, which for me to leave my dishes in and simultaneously annoy my wife.
There's
Go ahead.
there's practical and then there's joy, right? I like the fact that I'm sitting in a chair. But do I celebrate the chair? Do I talk about how glorious it is to have a chair that I don't have to stand? No. What I care about is art, is music, is entertainment. All of these are incorporated in the championship. And
Indoor
that thing
plumbing.
that you share with all the people, total strangers. You see a guy in a bar wearing the same jersey of the guy who won you a championship, and you've just made a friend for life.
Indoor plumbing is considered one of the most transformative innovations in human history. In fact, it's so transformative that it was actually an actual transformer that became a toilet, named, wait for it, King Toots. How can you top King Toots?
They had indoor plumbing in ancient Rome. And you know what they did? They said this isn't enough. They created gladiators. And they celebrated the gladiators who won. Chariot races. Those people they collected their coins like they were baseball cards. It's deep in the human race to sit in a circle and watch men do battle in sport. And that's what they still talk about in ancient Rome, not the fact that they had an aqueduct.
I don't think they're currently talking in ancient Rome. But here's what also happens when your team wins. You celebrate. Justifiably. You eat a load of garbage, and then you feel that gurgle in your stomach. And then where do you go? Where do you run to? The toilet, but not without indoor plumbing.
And then you sit down on the toilet and you take out your phone and you look at highlights of Adam Vinatieri's kicks, the 2004 Red Sox championship. Nobody goes to the cemetery to put like a toilet down to celebrate grandma and grandpa who never got to see the Sox win at all.
There are a large number of people who never experienced their team winning at all. How can it be dominant if it's not experienced by, 12 NFL teams haven't won, 10 NBA teams, 10 NHL teams, 5 Major League Baseball teams. I was going to check out soccer, but nobody really cares. I am a Buffalo Bills fan. I have never seen my team win a championship. What I did see when I moved to Boston was a huge sign that says Norwood 3 miles right. That sucked.
Okay. Al Bundy, the greatest American male of all time, loved 2 things. His Ferguson toilet, but more than that, he loved the fact that he scored 4 touchdowns in a single game at Polk High. I rest my case.
When your team wins a championship, you eventually realize you didn't do anything. It's not your success. It's kind of like when your wife has a baby, the credit really isn't yours. But it's actually more like being happy for somebody else's success. It's nice, but then it hits you, it's not your success. Coworker gets a promotion. How long are you really happy for the guy? Your neighbor wins the lottery. You're happy, but deep down, not so much. Your wife finally convinces the Uber Eats driver to have sex with her. Yeah, you're happy she's happy, but you realize it wasn't you. Same thing with the team winning a championship.
My last point, I've written 3 books about the Patriots winning championships. I've written 0 books about the commode. I rest my case.
All right. Yes, there is a great book called 6 Rings, but there is no 6 rings for Buffalo Bills fans. The closest we get was the one from Dante and his Rings of Hell. All right, Mike, what do you got?
All right, this is a tough one. I will say, very passionately argued on both sides. Dave, indoor plumbing. Yes, it's revolutionary. It changed the course of history. On the one hand, it does require a pretty tremendous amount of upkeep. I mean, finding a plumber is just the worst. They're always expensive. Their phone's ringing off the hook by God knows how many other people. The wait list is literally a suggestion unless your house is underwater at the time you're calling them. Having a toilet indoors has its obvious pitfalls. First of all, this great bowel movement that is somewhere on this top 25 list that I've been told. If you have a great bowel movement indoors and there's somebody else indoors with you, that's a problem. They're going to be talking about that for a while. And if God forbid it's a bad one, that's even further. If you're in a situation where, you're in a very small quarters on vacation or say with somebody, and then you need to use the indoor plumbing. However, you're really close to the person who's just the thin wall between you two. Now, an outhouse would be much more practical in that situation because they wouldn't have any idea what you're doing. You say, hey, listen, I'm just going for a walk. And that's it. But
All right,
however,
Mike, we got to get a decision pretty soon. We're running out of time.
getting up in the middle of the night just to waltz into the bathroom is pretty fantastic, and I would hate to do that in the middle of the winter.
Yeah.
Jerry, your team winning a championship when I was a kid, if you told me the Patriots were ever going to win a championship, I would have dropped to my knees and thank God. As an adult, I have so many more things I have to worry about. For example, the last Celtics championship that I was pining for 17 years. As soon as it was done, I said, you know what? Okay, that's fine. Now, what's my dating app doing right now? Who am I meeting next week? So it is a tough one. Although the one image that sticks out for me is the scene in Platoon where King and Chris are moving the giant barrels of poop out of the outhouse. That sticks with me. It seemed very unpleasant, so I'm going to have to go with indoor plumbing.
Hey!
Wow.
All right, Emma, we got to move here.
All
Let's
right.
tell the world what the current top 25 is, and we'll close shop there.
All right. And just to put this out there, so the 23, 24, and 25 seeds, they are going to get cut. I'm about to list them, and I'm sorry for anyone listening. If you're in the car or something, you can't write these down as I'm saying them. I'm so sorry. We're going to go fast. All right. Number 25, we have cremation. 24, domination rankings. Oh, this is so sad. Domination rankings are getting cut from your own rankings. Stop laughing. This isn't funny at all. Moving on. 23, Jeep.
All right. I got buttoned with the Jeep thing. I've had a Jeep for a long time. It's a 2006 Wrangler, lovely car, but the only thing it dominates is my bank account. Every time I turn the ignition, it costs me $1,000. And Jeremy Clarkson from Top Gear said, this is the worst car I have ever driven.
Good thing it is getting cut. Number 22, we have jeans. 21, Premier League soccer. 20, Rome. 19, fishing.
All right, I am not a fan of fishing because throwing back the fish to me is just obnoxious. What does someone who's in like a third world country think when you catch a big fish big enough to feed his whole family and then all of a sudden splash? I don't even eat it. It's simply obnoxious.
Next, we have number 18, Ted Williams.
Ted Williams, okay, not just the greatest hitter who ever lived, not just one of the greatest fishermen that ever lived. He's in the Hall of Fame of both sports. When he was inducted into the Hall of Fame in the mid-'60s, he made a plea for the Negro League players to get the recognition they deserve. Oh, and by the way, he's a hero who served in 2 wars. 2. And crash landed his jet in Korea.
Number 17, we have Star Wars. 16, New York City. 15, sandwiches. 14, childbirth. 13, money.
From the movie
12.
Animal House.
12, The Simpsons. 11, Elvis.
All right, Elvis. The only thing he's dominated in the last 50 or 60 years is the indoor plumbing he died on. I'm sorry. He did a lot. There was a lot that he did, but he didn't write any of his own songs. And if you can't dominate your own writer's room, I don't know that you can dominate anything. I'm sorry.
Oh boy, you're going to hell for that one. Go ahead.
Well, number 10, we have Jesus.
If I may make a plea for Jesus, controversial stand, but I'm very pro Jesus. Even if you're secular, and I am not, but you have to appreciate that the crucifixion, which is a historic fact, it's confirmed by other historians contemporary of the time, was not just about suffering and torture. It was about degradation. It was humiliating. It was what they did for slaves. The symbol of him sacrificing himself on the cross defeated Rome. It has outlived all other symbols. It is absolutely, it's inspired billions around the world for millennia and will continue to. Very pro Jesus.
Very
All
true.
right.
I think all the Catholic school kids here will agree.
There you
Let's
go,
see.
Emma.
Go Notre
Number
Dame.
9, we have summertime. 8, sex. 7, air conditioning. 6, a good bowel movement.
Woohoo!
5, pasta. 4, TV. 3, pizza. Just so to recap there, the last 3 were pasta, TV, and pizza, which would really tell you something about your voters. I'm not sure how out of shape they are, but you might want to check up on them. Let's see. Number 2, making people laugh. And finally, number 1, we have sleep.
Apparently, there's nothing better than lack of consciousness. Here's hoping our listeners are not nodding in agreement. But there we have it, folks. We have episode 8 in the books. Thanks to everybody. I don't think we sucked. And that's really the standard. All right. Thanks, guys.
What do you want?